Darren Bombing, Zach Schnitzer. What's going on, everybody? It's Bonfire Midweek here on Bonfire Sports. Thanks to everybody for joining us. People are already live, sitting in the weight room, waiting for us to go live Tuesdays, 7:30, as we always do. Zach Schnitzer, what's going on, man? How was your weekend? Did you stay cool here in Southern Manitoba? Whew.
I stayed reasonably cool. We got some people in the splash pad area, and my son just went. You never know, right? When it's your son's first time going in the splash pad, and he just went ape sh something t. He just ran in there full, like he had his we didn't even bring like a swim diaper or a swimsuit. He just bolted, and the water
Really?
was cold, but. Yeah, we had a great Father's Day weekend. My daughter made me a hat. I got a bike helmet, some earbuds. I'm still waiting for my Maroons Road shirt. It's coming. And today I'm honoring Pops with my Einstein shirt because my dad Mendel, looked exactly like Einstein. Like he
Did he?
literally looked like this is him. This is literally looked like him. It's crazy. So people used to call him
Really?
Einstein. So yes. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Hopefully it was a wonderful day. And if your dad isn't around anymore, it was probably a hard day for you. And I hope you felt him with you wherever you believe he is. And happy to talk football because that always brings me close to my dad because that was our thing, Darren. So nice
Yeah.
to be with you today, buddy.
No, absolutely. Good to be with you and with everybody. Happy belated Father's Day, Zach, and to everybody out there who is a father. Everybody's in the live chat already. What's up, Gregory and Booch and Sandy and my boy Nick Kowalski out in BC? What's happening, brother? People are already asking questions. Let's quickly get into one. I do want to run down though before I get to Sandy's
Yeah.
question here. She's watching live on YouTube. What's going on, Sandy? Um, Obviously, we're going to look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers week 2 win 19-12 in Ottawa over the Red Blacks. We'll answer the question that a lot of people are wondering right now. Are they legit? I have a pretty concrete take on this, Zach. So we'll get into that.
Okay.
I'm sure you do too. We'll do a quick spin around the Canadian Football League and look at the week 2 that was, and ahead to week 3. We will get into our Bonfire Do-Or-Die Fantasy League and Pick-Em contests, see who our leaders are through 2 weeks of the CFL season. And then, of course, we're going to tee up the Grey Cup rematch here in Winnipeg at IG Field on Friday night. Bombers are 2-0. The Ticats are 0-2. You talk about having a bitter taste in your mouth, Zach. Imagine being winless as one of the favorites in the East Division, going into Winnipeg and having to face a team that's beat you in each of the last 2 championship games, and they're going to be wearing white, the color that they've worn in beating you 2 times. The Cats are going to be hungry.
Dude. If I remember, so I was watching. I know we're gonna get into this, okay, but we'll get into it later. Let me just say this: if I'm the Ticats, cats get hungry. I have 3 cats, Darren. They get a load of food every day. They puke half of it up, but that's another story. But the Ticats puked up that win. We'll get to that one. But oh
Yeah.
my goodness, in a better East Division, with maybe the exception of Montreal right now, the Ticats coming off that loss, and now they're coming to play a rematch with the champs in IG Field with Dane Evans. Oh, baby. And we're going to
Yeah.
have the whiteout, which I personally love, and we can talk about that later too. But so much to get to with that rematch and then just some of these super exciting things around the league, Darren. Just before you finish your rundown, dude, I do want
Yeah.
to recognize that today is National Indigenous Peoples Day. And that's really important in Manitoba. We have a very high percentage of people who are Indigenous, and it's a day of celebration. And I was just reading on the CBC that there was a few young people who are relearning their language, and just relearning or not relearning, but just learning their language brought them out of some dark places. One person was struggling with addiction, and if you've never learned about Indigenous languages, learn about it. Hopefully your company or workplace or you have a chance to read something. I was in a training, and I'll stop at this, but I was in a training at work, and the word for child is the
Yeah.
same word for, it was either grandparent or great grandparent, and I believe it meant like star or something. And it was just beautiful, just like such rich language. And it really told me that if your language gets stripped away from you,
Mhm.
you lose so much. So happy Indigenous National Indigenous Peoples Day. It's a day to celebrate and a day to do what you can to learn more about truth and reconciliation. So thanks for
Absolutely.
giving me that little spot there, Darren.
No, absolutely. It's important. Hey, culture, regardless of what it is important to us as individuals. It's important to us as a community, right? Your family, your neighbors, your neighborhood, your town, your city, wherever you are. Culture is important, right? It really does enter every part of our lives. So for Indigenous Peoples Day, I think it's a good thing to recognize. But let's get into the show, and
Yeah,
lots of Canadian football and Winnipeg Blue Bombers talk to get to. Before we get into CFL Week 2, got
yeah,
to send out congratulations to former Blue Bombers head coach Dave Ritchie, and like way back in the day, three-way player. He mostly played defensive back. Tricky Dick Thornton. Those two individuals, amongst many deserving people in Canadian football, going into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame 2022 class. Congratulations to them. I think people remember Dave Ritchie. It wasn't too long ago here
yeah,
in Winnipeg, brought the Winnipeg Blue Bombers back to relevance in the late 90s and early 2000s, brought them to the Grey Cup in 2001 when Kahari Jones was CFL MOP. Just an unbelievable personality with that Southern drawl and the way he
yeah.
engaged with fans and media and his team and the rest. Hearty congratulations to those two guys. Tricky Dick Thornton, he played DB, he played receiver, like he even played a little bit of quarterback. He returned kicks, he blocked, he did everything. He's been in the Winnipeg Blue Bombers Hall of Fame since I think the 80s. So
Yeah.
good to see Tricky Dick getting into the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, getting that national recognition. Well deserved.
And they're crazy when you think about guys who used to play multiple positions. I mean, I remember early on in training camp, we were talking about Janarian Grant and how
Mhm.
he might get some reps on offense. But O'Shea was like, well, you got to be careful because he's the punt returner. And he returns kicks as well. And it's like teams now are very, very even if a player can do both, they're very careful about playing you in more than one position, unless it's, a backup lineman, linebacker, and playing special teams or something. It's crazy to think about what
Yeah.
those guys did.
I like this comment from Waiters, who is always in the comments. Did Hamilton have deja vu on Saturday? Blew a
Yeah,
fourth quarter lead and loss on an interception in overtime. Some other people in the live chat, I think I lost it here, but asking for a health update or injury update on the Blue Bombers. We're going to get to that. Some details to share with everybody out there. But yeah, Hamilton did have a little bit of deja vu over the weekend. That
yeah,
was the third of 4 games in CFL Week 2. Let's start with the first, and it was Montreal at Toronto on Thursday, Zach. And you think, like, if you're out there and you're looking at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers kicking situation, and you're saying, like, this is ridiculous. We need someone who's going to be 95%. That game saw kicking being the determining factor, and both teams had struggles in it. The
yeah.
Argos, it was their home opener and their season opener. They moved to 1-0 with a 2019 win over the Montreal Alouettes. Vernon Adams Jr. pulled from that game after like 4 pass attempts. Enter Trevor Harris. He got the job done when it mattered. He got them
He
into
did,
field
Darren.
goal range, Zach, but ultimately they're not able to get their first win on the season. Kahari Jones, seats getting warmer by the minute, sitting at 0-2. Vernon Adams Jr. has COVID-19, so no quarterback controversy in the short term, Zach, they're going to have to start Trevor Harris in week 3. Montreal is home to the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
I got to tell you, man, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. I don't think even if Adams doesn't have COVID-19, I don't think there's a quarterback controversy there at all. You saw Vernon Adams. He didn't play great in week 1. He was inconsistent, like he always is. And don't get me wrong, I'm pulling for Vernon Adams. You remember in week 1 that highlight reel, like high hurdle into the end zone, Darren.
Mhm.
Like, this guy's an absolute dynamic player. The league needs him to be good. But then you get pulled in week 2, and Trevor Harris comes in, 60% completion percentage, 270 yards. He did have the 1 pick, but he did his job on the road against a stout Toronto defense and did enough to win them the game. They should have won the game. David Cote misses. I don't know, what was that, a 32-yarder or something very, very makeable.
It was a makeable kick. Yeah. No question.
And Toronto was interesting. You saw them coming in, and a lot of people were big on Toronto. Andrew Harris, dare I talk about Andrew Harris? He had a whale of a game, but he had 87 yards
Not
rushing.
entirely. Yeah.
Well, 3/4 of the game, he had 87 yards rushing, 23 yards receiving, so he's over 100 yards. It's a typical Andrew Harris game. You saw him bust a 17, along a 17. But then he gets hurt, and it didn't, I hate to say it, but it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me. It broke my heart.
Did you see him, like, the way Andrew Harris was running in the first quarter? Like, he was like a bat out of hell. He was running so hard, fired up, popping up off the turf after the play. Like, he was vintage. And then kind of faded away quickly, and now he suffered what is, I believe, been reported a hamstring injury. So we'll see if Andrew Harris is good to go week 3. They're in BC, the late game on Saturday with a 9:00 kickoff.
And Dinwiddie was quick. Sorry, Darren. Dinwiddie was quick to say, he thinks he'll be back. He didn't say he will be back, but it just, I have this gut feeling that this is going to be Harris's entire season. And I don't know. He's got the, it sucks for him because he's got the ability, and he's got the talent, and he's got the drive, and he has the playbook down. You want to see him succeed, although some Bomber fans maybe don't. But the health, and he proved Kyle Walters and that brass right on Thursday. I hate to say it, just from an objective perspective.
You? I kid, of course.
Okay, fair.
I kid, of course. Zach, we all know that you were a huge tried and true Blue fan, and that's what we enjoy. It's what I enjoy having here on the show and on the channel. So it's good. It's good to have some balance, right? I'll try to be the objective one. You can, sprinkle in a little objectivity here and there. I'm cool with that, but we all know where your allegiance lie.
And the listeners will, and you can tell me whether I ever get away with it. I don't know if I could ever get away with being objective, but anyway.
You'll do the best you can. Continuing in week 2 in the CFL, Bombers win 19-12 in Ottawa over the Red Blacks. We're going to get into a lot of those topics in just a minute. But quick thought on the Stampeders roaring back and, absolutely trampling, if I can use the proper metaphor for a Stampeder, trampling a Tiger Cat. 33-30, they win in overtime. Bo Levi Mitchell's numbers were far from sterling in this game, but he threw for 313 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was good enough. And despite Peyton Logan and Kadeem Carey both being banged up in that game, and Carey looked like soft tissue, something in the ankle region. Then came Peyton Logan, and he looked like an absolute firecracker, like a real spark plug for the Calgary Stampeders. 9 carries for 45 yards. He had 4 catches for 59 yards, and then a very, very scary moment where he was down on the field, appeared to lose consciousness. Don't know that for sure, but hoping the best for Peyton Logan. Looks like a heck of a football player in really the first time he popped off the page in
Too
his
bad,
CFL career. But man, coming back from 24-0 with 3 minutes left in the second quarter, Calgary gets the ball down the field enough to kick a field goal. So it's 24-3 at the half. And then entering the fourth quarter, they're still chasing the lead, and they come back to tie it with just enough time to force it to overtime. And the Stampeders improved to 2-0. The Ticats, bitter tastes in their jowls right now at 0-2.
They're eating that if you're a cat person, they're mom and dad.
Are you going to say they're eating their throw up?
They're eating their throw up, or they're eating that sort of congealed wet food that's left there, the dregs mom and dad forgot to feed them. Listen, I want to point to a crucial part in the game, and to use a bonfire analogy. The embers were getting low for Calgary. They're down 24-3. This is in the third quarter, Darren. And the Ticats they seem to be driving at will. And I listened to our friends Podski Wee Wee, which is a CFL fan podcast.
Yeah. Oh no, Podski Wee Wee. Sorry, that's Ticats fan cast.
Yeah. Podski Wee, and they did a post game, and credit to those guys because they were crushed, but they still crushed out a post game right after the game. And you imagine how, as a fan, your heart gets ripped out. And they talked about how the Ticats were playing really well on offense, and they were they were surmising that the Ticat O-line isn't the best this year, not as good as usual. So they were getting out some quick passes, and you saw Dane Evans just it's kind of like that run and shoot offense with June Jones, and it was effective. And they were driving down 24-3 deep in the third quarter, Darren. They're essentially trying to put the game away.
Mm-hmm.
And they go for it deep in Calgary territory on 3rd and 2. And I thought, even before the play, and this is just someone who's watched CFL for so many years, and you have too. When you watch the CFL, and people, you chime in on this, you get a feeling, Darren, in a game, even if it's maybe seems to be out of hand in the CFL, the game's never over. And I felt like, okay, they're going for it. They're up 24-3. If they're up 27-3, now they're up over 3 scores, I believe. If my math is 27-3, it's like 3 touchdowns with 3 2-point conversions, right? So if you go and you get the field goal, you have all the momentum. They were on the Calgary 9-yard line. They've killed a bunch of time off the clock, and they go for it on 3rd and 2. And the guys in Podski Wee Wee, their thinking was, put the game away. If you get the touchdown, it's 31-3. The game is over. Yep. Fair enough. But I promise you, I was thinking, do not go for it, because it's not 3rd and a half a yard. It's not 3rd and 1. It's 3rd and 2. And sure enough, Jameer Thurman, who's a stud on defense, stuffs Hamilton. And I thought to myself right there, this game is over. And people might not believe me. They might not believe me, Darren. But I knew this game is over. And sure enough, Calgary comes back. They get the touchdown. And, back and forth, they take it to overtime. And I just think sometimes, and I'm not gonna diss Orlando Steinauer and Tommy Condell. Those are very good coaches.
How can you?
But sometimes coaches outthink themselves. There's a time to be gutsy, like when Collaros threw that 30-yard bomb to Dalton Schoen off the turnover.
You got to take your shots. You have to take your shots once in a while, or else nobody's going to think you're a threat.
Of course you do. Of course. And you have to stretch out the defense, all those things we always talk about. Sometimes you got to go for 2. But you're up 24-3 deep in Calgary territory. They've literally done nothing the whole game. You're getting towards the end of the third quarter. Kick a field goal. You're up 27-3. The risk reward didn't make sense to me, Darren. And I think sometimes...
hang on. Risk reward? You said they had a chance to put the game away. And you're still talking about, a three score game.
You're sharp, Darren, but I think the risk reward is you don't need the touchdown to put the game away. Like, yes, you're
Well,
like,
they clearly did.
Hold on a second. If you get the touchdown,
Yeah.
you put the game away. If you get the field goal, you're still almost putting the game away. And you don't need to put the game away there. I'm just saying the risk reward, if you don't get it, you fire up a team that is basically glowing embers at that point. And then all of a sudden it's like, hey, the psychology is, hey, we're down 24-3. Hey, if we get a touchdown on this drive, who knows? 24-10. You're only down by 2 scores. I just think, looking back, I knew they were going to, this happened to the Bombers before. Anyway, I'm going on a tangent here, but dude,
I'm guessing the Podski Wee Wee. I'm guessing that Podski Wee Wee post game got you a little bit fired up.
Well, I'd be sickened if I was a fan, and now you're 0-2.
Yeah.
And I know Hamilton-Calgary games are always wonky. That's another story. But now you're 0-2. You're coming into IG Field. You have Dane Evans, who looked pretty good, but he's a guy who's been owned by Winnipeg's defense in both Grey Cups. And you're coming in. I think he was owned in both Grey Cups.
I wouldn't say owned. They didn't own them in 2021. They needed overtime to win. That was
but Dane Evans was owned. That's what I'm sorry, Darren.
Mazzoli was better than Evans in the Grey Cup.
Mazzoli was unbelievable in the Grey Cup. But Evans was not. He was 4 of 9. He had a pick for 32 yards when he got hurt. 2019, he was manhandled. You got the Jeffs. You've got Jeffcoat, Jefferson. I'm just saying.
I hear you.
It's a fascinating matchup that we can get to. I know we haven't even finished around the league.
Yeah, I know. You're killing me. Just kidding. It's important to analyze the game that just happened for the Blue Bombers' upcoming opponent. You can eat, like a guy like me would just be like, man, they've got a bitter taste in their mouth. But it is good that you dig into why they lost, how they lost, because they're going to come into Winnipeg fired up, and knowing that recent history. That's what we're here for on Bonfire Midweek, to get you educated on what happened, what may happen, the key matchups, and the rest. Dane Evans looked dangerous last week. He was 71%, 425 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, did throw 2 interceptions, and it ended up hurting them. But a quarterback efficiency rating just under 100. And Tim White, 131 yards. He was targeted 14 times with 11 catches. He was all over the field. Winnipeg's going to have to keep a very close eye on number 12, Tim White, in the Hamilton Tiger Cats receiving corps on Friday night. And then, of course, the week wrapped up with Saskatchewan and Edmonton, and the Riders coming out of Edmonton with a 26-16 win, a game that was probably much closer than a lot of people expected. Brett Lowther was good in this game and had a field goal late to win, but it was as close as, it was 15-13, 21-16. It was a pretty close football game in the fourth quarter. Saskatchewan did finally put their foot on the gas and put down the Edmonton Elks, clearly an inferior football team right now. But that leaves us, Zach, now with week 2 in the books and looking ahead to week 3. The West got a 3-way tie for first place with Calgary, Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan all at 2-0. And then you look over to the East. What's going on? They have 1 win, and it was the team that played their home opener and their first game of the season in week 2, with Toronto winning by a very narrow margin. I understand Montreal would have won if Toronto didn't. It almost like it should have ended in a tie, because that would still leave the East Division winless. Ottawa, Hamilton, Montreal, all goose eggs in the W column. There was a lot of talk, Zach, this past offseason about these free agent signings and quarterback additions and this and that and the other, that the East Division's the strongest it's been in the recent memory, and it's finally parity in the league. I never bought that for a second. Ottawa
No?
needed to rebuild. Montreal had glaring issues. Toronto and Hamilton, probably the best of the bunch. And Hamilton's 0-2.
Yeah.
Toronto's got to win, but they barely beat Montreal. Like, is the East going to be a tire fire in 2022? Is my question to you.
Well, and I'm one of the jokers, or as my dad would have said, one of the yahoos. I don't know. Did your dad use that word, or anybody in the chat? Is that sort of a baby
I was
boomer
reading
word?
Holy Smokes, He's the Bee's Knees here from
Oh,
David
holy,
Waka,
that's
talking about
going back.
Rasheed Bailey.
Oh
What
my.
was sorry? What was the
Well, I was gonna say, yeah. My dad, if I was an idiot, which happened a lot, surprise, surprise, he used to call me a yahoo. Is that recognized?
I think it's recognized by some as insensitive.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. My apologies. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah. But oh, absolutely. It's a colloquial term and used often, or has been used
Okay.
often.
Well, I apologize. I don't
But
know the offensive nature of the word, but I will look it up and will not use it again. He also called me a yolt, which is Yiddish for like just idiot.
okay.
Especially whenever I tried to help him like around the house. He just
Well, what
you
dad
don't, you don't
hasn't
have it,
told
Zach.
their son, and I'm not talking about one like you've got a tiny little guy that's still goo goo gaga, right? And then trying to talk, but like one that is, coherent for conversation. Everybody's father calls them a dummy when they need to be called a dummy, because
Oh
how else
yeah.
do you learn, right? But yeah.
Well, there's positive ways to learn, but anyway, I get your point. I was one of the dummies who saw the East as I was excited about the East. I saw Montreal loaded up. I saw Vernon Adams maybe taking a turn for better, and if he couldn't do it, Trevor Harris. I saw Hamilton. I know you said a couple times actually, based on Orlando Steinauer saying, Hamilton, they've got a lot of figuring out to do, but they still have a good pedigree. Toronto, I
Mhm.
saw is loaded up, and Ottawa, I saw is loaded up. And then we weren't sure about BC and Edmonton. Just BC, despite what Nick Kowalski's saying here, if Sask is so good, imagine a team who could drop 59 on Edmonton. Buddy, I love when Nick joins us, and I can't wait to get him on
Yeah.
the show when BC's coming up. But I did think they'd be stronger. And when you say it like that, Darren, that they have one win in the division between
Mhm.
them, that doesn't sound good. Although it's only been week 2, but
Well,
maybe the
well,
East will get better.
it may get better if you look ahead to week 3. I'm just pulling it up here now. Uh, there is no pure East Division matchups. And if
Right.
you're following the ticker along at home, uh, when Zach was going through, Zach, you were going through your Hamilton, decision making recap. I was trying to plug in the lines from Sports Interaction that I failed to do before the show. I apologize, but interesting to look at those. So when you look at the upcoming schedule, no East on East division games.
Right.
So they could remain a 1-win division if Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and BC are all victorious this week. Ottawa gets the bye after going to 0-2 and 2 games against the defending champs. But Saskatchewan, 3.5-point favorites in Montreal on Thursday. The Bombers open at 4.5-point favorites over the Ticats. I think that's a pretty good number. That's about a 1.5-point actual spread on a neutral field. I think that's pretty fair for how well these teams know each other. The Elks are 9-point underdogs in the Battle of Alberta on Saturday night. And then BC at home, where I think they got a little bit of juice. I think they're going to be strong there this year. 4.5
Huh?
points on the Toronto Argonauts. So same line as Winnipeg at home to Hamilton. So those are your numbers. We get them from Sports Interaction, a great place to check out if you need to. Speaking of a great place to check out, Zach, and you talked about it off the top of the show, and that is Maroons Road Apparel. I have to shout these people out because they are awesome. This is a really, really hot item. It is their brand new Winnipeg Blue Bombers design with the bi wing dropping the footballs, the football bombs. It's just a great design and unique. What I love about Maroons Road, Zach, is that these apparel items are a conversation piece. You need some fresh tees or a nice hoodie for around the bonfire this summer. Oh, you see what I did there? Check out
I did.
maroonsroadapparel.com. Awesome stuff with these great retro throwback Winnipeg icons and
Yeah.
designs. I love their stuff. Great people. I have a couple of these t-shirts already. You got one coming, Zach.
Oh, yeah.
They are soft and high quality. They wash really well. So check them out. Maroonsroadapparel.com. We got a link in our video description below. I love this one too at the old
Oh,
Winnipeg
that's brilliant.
Stadium. Yeah,
I'd
like, come
almost
on.
that's a toss-up for me, that biplane versus that one.
Yeah.
Because that one's growing on me. Every time you show it, Darren, it's like, woo, that's pretty sweet with the Pac-Man, and I have good memories there and bad
Well,
ones too. But anyway,
no, like if you like them both, maybe you should buy them both. You can get different colors as well. That if you
it's
don't
true.
want two blues, this one's a cool one actually. How about that? It is the combo on Maroons Road, right across the
Yeah.
street from one another, the Winnipeg Arena and the Winnipeg Stadium, Canadians and the old barn. Awesome to see. And how about waiters in the live chat here, Zach? He's mentioning that currently wearing his Maroons Road Winnipeg Stadium shirt, bought it and the Winnipeg Arena shirts on the weekend. A little Father's Day present for himself, possibly.
Nice.
Waiters, but
Nice.
thanks for supporting those who support us here on Bonfire Sports. Okay, Zach, let's now get into topic du jour, of course, and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at 2-0. And I would say a more comfortable win in week 2 than maybe how things went in week 1. That all said, it wasn't entirely rosy the whole way. They scored 19 points in each of these 2 games against the Ottawa Red Blacks. I'll start with the question that I posed on our YouTube thumbnail. Are the Blue Bombers for real? Are they a powerhouse team that those here in Winnipeg have come to expect of a Mike O'Shea football club?
I don't know.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know because, gosh, you look at 2-0 and you think, okay, 2-0 is great. Especially in a back-to-back, you beat a good team. And I think we all can agree that Ottawa's probably a good team. We've only seen them play Winnipeg, right? But even if you're playing a mediocre team, to throw for over 700 yards in 2 games with around a 70% completion percentage with Jeremiah Masoli. Jeremiah Masoli is hot. I don't care who he's playing. I don't care if he's playing the 2014 or 2015 Winnipeg Blue Bomber defense. He is hot. And so
Maybe the 2011 Blue Bomber defense.
yeah, well, if he did that against the
There's your
2011 Blue Bomber defense,
there's your yin and yang, right?
there's Hall of Fame, right? But so on the one hand, I'm saying yes, they're for real because Ottawa seems like a good team, and Ottawa scored 1 touchdown against the Bombers in 2 games, and in 2 games in the fourth quarters they have 6 combined points, and don't forget, folks, that at the 3-minute warning that clock stops, right? The Bombers have been the Bombers. They may be a little bit more bend than we'd like. And O'Shea, I heard him say this week, he doesn't like bend but don't break. And he said the team hates it even more. They want to smash you. Those were his words. But I think on the one hand, yes, they've beaten a good team back to back who they had no film on. That they were gritty. They were full measure. I know Dave, and we can talk about this. Dave Naylor thinks that Ottawa deserved to win and should have won that second game as well. We can debate that. But I guess the thing I'm wondering is when I look at league-wide stats, which I get courtesy of my friend Darren Bombing here, the offensive category numbers for the Bombers, and I know they've only played 1 defense, and who knows, Darren, maybe after 21 weeks, we'll find out that Ottawa defense just stacked up well against the Winnipeg offense. We don't know. But as we're looking now, the Bombers' offensive numbers after 2 weeks aren't the greatest, and they do need to turn around. They have the lowest total plays from scrimmage of the teams that have played 2 games. That's not great. That means they're not getting a lot of longer drives going. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. And I'll tell you why.
All right.
In
Shoot.
my opinion, to answer the question of the day, are the Blue Bombers for real? Are they legit? Are they contenders? Are they as strong as they were last year? Well, to answer that last question, we don't know.
We don't know.
But are they contenders and are they a very, very good football team? No doubt in my mind for a split second. Okay. They're without their starting safety. They've got new pieces in the receiving core, new pieces on the offensive line. Well, one in particular, missing Drew Desjardins. Like, this is nothing. This is saying nothing about Jeff Gray at left guard. Okay. Because I know a lot is being said about Jeff Gray right now. Mike O'Shea still says Jeff Gray is an awesome football player and gets down the field and doesn't. Okay. Young players make mistakes.
Yep.
There's not being a good football player and like you have a problem versus a guy like Jeff Gray who is still doing a pretty good job. Has he had blows? Absolutely. But Drew Desjardins and Stanley Bryant on the left side of the Blue Bombers offensive line, like, we have to remember that was an absolute wall in 2021. Impenetrable. It imposed crazy just fear and anxiety in defenses because if Winnipeg wanted to run the ball to the left side or protect Zach Collaros from the left side of the pass rush, there's not much other teams could do. It was that good. So is it as good as last year? No. Is Winnipeg as good as last year? I don't know. We don't know. But to touch on what you talked about, Zach, is it fair? In a picture this big, they've played one team.
I know.
Team. And you don't want to go, and like you and I touched on this earlier. I shared it on shows in the past. The Blue Bombers are playing the same opponent twice to start the season. Do you really want to give, like, everybody has their base offense and their base defense. Do you really want to give 8 quarters of film of you? Like, let's say I'm the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Do I want to give the rest of the league 8
That's
quarters
fair.
of film
I know you said
of
that.
trying all these different things and trying this and that? And, oh, we're going to try this package. We're going to try that package. And suddenly all your cards are on the table and everybody knows what you're capable of or the things that you've been cooking up all winter. I think that would be stupid to do. So am I overly concerned about the Bombers offense? No.
Okay.
I will say this. I was at practice yesterday and spoke to Zach Collaros, amongst others. And you can check that out on our Instagram page. I think I put some up on Twitter as well, but go to our Instagram, bonfire.sports. I think our Teadric Hansen, or T3 as I like to call him, because he is built like a machine. His comments are up on our Instagram exclusively. So head over there, bonfire.sports. Talking to Zach Collaros, like, this is just my gut. Okay. This is just my gut and feeling in talking with him and other people on the team. Zach Collaros, to me, seems kind of ticked off right now. He's not happy. Who would be happy scoring 19 points in 2 straight games when you know you're capable of so much more? I can just there is no settle in the mentality of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and who better to set that tone than the starting quarterback, than the league MOP, right?
Yeah.
Zach Collaros is ticked off, and I think that is indicative of what the Blue Bombers expect of themselves. A lot better than they have played systemically and game plan and trickery and different systems and different, things you can throw at an opponent. That's one thing. The other is playing fundamental football in your base offense, trying a thing here or there, but nothing crazy, and executing it. Winnipeg knows it can win against a team that's still learning to win in Ottawa. Are they a better team than last year? Absolutely. That's clear as day. Jeremiah Masoli alone. But I think Winnipeg needs to play better, and they know they need to play better. But that's different than saying they're a team that isn't as good as last year or isn't a true powerhouse or contender. Like, it's week 2. Take a breath. Let them play another team other than Ottawa before you start making like, oh, they can't run the football. Oh, the O-line's making mistake. Oh, the corner Winston Rose is getting beat. Well, Winston Rose has essentially covered one guy for 3 weeks of calendar time in 2 games, right? He's covered Jalen
Well,
Acklin.
don't forget that first preseason game where he got burned 1-on-1 by Caleb Ollie. Just saying. But yes, he's covered one guy. I know you're asking me to take a deep breath, and I am. It's not that I don't think they're for real per se. I need to see another game. I need to see them play another opponent, because the offense. I'll throw another one at you. They have a good
hang
number.
on a second. I want to mention this here.
What?
Tyler Fabry is watching live on YouTube.
Oh, yeah?
He played beside Jeff Gray at the University of Manitoba. And Tyler says he'll be just fine. Yes, he took 2 bad holding penalties. It happens. He played great in the second half. There is a voice of reason from a guy who probably knows. Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that. And what's up, Ashley and Nick and some of my close friends? What's going on out there? Good to see you guys in the live chat. Everybody who's watching live on YouTube and Facebook, what's going on?
That's great. Thank you, Tyler. No, that's good. I love being I like being interrupted if it's something good.
You like being interrupted.
Like being interrupted if it's something I don't care, actually. And
your wife must be in heaven if you like being interrupted.
Oh, it's true. I've just learned helplessness now. It's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like, just don't even bother. What was I going to say? Okay, so the thing that does concern me, maybe concerned isn't the best word, but the thing that I'm really watching for with this offense is time of possession and average gain on first down. They're lowest in the league in time of possession, I think, except for Edmonton, which isn't saying much. Okay. And the average, like, I remember Lapo used to talk about this. The strength of an offense is often predicted on their gain on first down. And I saw a lot of Winnipeg first downs, getting 2, 3, 4 yards. If you're getting 5 or more, I think the stats tell you that your whole playbook opens up on second and short, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3s. You can run the ball, you can screen it, you can throw it long, whatever it is. So I want to see them improve. This is what I'm looking for. So I don't know if they're for real. I think they're. And if you and how are we qualifying for real? Are we saying for real they're going to be first in the West and contend for a Grey Cup? I'm not quite there yet. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. I just need to see more games, and I guess the offense. I just need to see the offense put together longer drives. I need to see them put up more points, Darren. Do a little bit better on first down. That's all I'm saying.
I like that you brought up the time of possession, because I think that's a number that is maybe it has a big asterisk next to it when it comes to Winnipeg. The reason I say that, like, it's valid because they haven't been on the field much. It's right there in the numbers. But why? Well, they either put together 7, 8, 9 play drives, or they've been going 2 and out. Like, I don't remember Winnipeg picking up a first down and then punting a couple plays later. Like, that hasn't happened against Ottawa. It was in week 1, it was 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. Like, they had 4 or 5 or 6 in the middle of that game. And that's why I asked Mike O'Shea about the flow, and there was none, because they just couldn't get anything going. They ended up, being able to get things going late and win that game. It wasn't exactly the same in week 2 in Ottawa. It was a little bit more, sputter, and then a little punch, and then sputter. The reason that number is low is because they don't have those 4, 5, 6 yard drive, or 4, 5, 6 play drives. They generally go 2 or 3 plays and punt, or they're moving down the field. So the numbers, again, that's one I don't look too much into early in a season, especially when they played one opponent. Like, it's weird scheduling. It kind of stinks for the most part. But that said, I think you can look at the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and understand. I think this may be a good time to talk about injuries. Understand they are missing some people, right?
Yeah.
Like, Brandon Alexander completely changes the Blue Bombers defense, right? And, Malcolm Thompson has played well. Is he Brandon Alexander? Probably not. So could they be better there? Yeah, absolutely. They were without Jackson Jeffcoat in week 1. Now he's back. A lot of people asking about injuries. The ones that are most glaring right now is Michael Couture at center, who left last game. He was spotted with his arm in a sling. I didn't see it, but a colleague of mine did at practice on Monday. I can't imagine him being good to go. If he's got an arm in a sling on a Monday, it could be preventative, similar to Winston Rose with the walking boot a couple weeks ago. But I'm a little bit unsure about Michael Couture. Chris Kolinkowski stepped in, Zach. I thought he did phenomenal.
Yeah, we talked.
He did a great job. Yeah. And then Jamarcus Hardrick missed practice today. It's listed as a knee injury. I think that's a vet day. Winston Rose officially listed as a non-participant today, but he did actually practice in part and then took off kind of the latter stages. I wasn't at practice today, but colleagues there letting me know what was going down. I think Winston Rose is going to be okay, but it's allowing DeMario Houston, a player who was on Winnipeg's practice roster last season. And if you recall, there was that shooting in his hometown where his daughter caught a bullet in a stray shooting in their home, which was not the target of the shooting. It was a crazy story. Check that out on the Free Press and the Sun if you haven't read it, but she was okay and all things were good. And they actually came to Canada soon after that, which I'm sure put DeMario Houston at ease. But I was told last week I said I digress too much, so I won't say it this time.
Who would say such a thing?
Oh, my buddy Jesse Peters, he was saying, he's like, I'm gardening, I'm listening to the podcast, and he's like, your word of the day, I digress. I will move on and say, DeMario, what?
Well, you know what? Don't say you've digressed. People don't necessarily catch on that you've digressed, and you haven't necessarily digressed. I mean, what is it?
Now you're talking college. You're talking college words now.
What really are you on the same topic? Like I could tell if you're talking about DeMario Houston, and then you're talking about Apollo 13 and Houston, we have a problem, and then you're talking about
sure
Space Cowboys.
Well, no, I'm talking about a personal, tragedy.
That's not a digression. Family, give yourself some credit, my friend. You're not a digressor, and I don't even know if that's a word.
Digressor.
Digressor.
Is that an ER or an O? We'll talk about that on our personal podcast. Friday mornings at 6 a.m.
What do you think of Houston? Because I noticed he got burned a couple times last year, but it's his first year. I noticed he was returning kicks. So what do you think if Houston has to go in, and do you think Rose plays?
I think Rose will dress. I think he will play. We don't know. We'll have to wait until Thursday morning when the roster comes out. But even then, they'll dress DeMario Houston. They always dress one backup defensive back at least. I think he would be fine. What tells me is that if Winston Rose is out or they want to make a change there, we know that the Blue Bombers defense and how they employ it, it's about versatility and it's about moving pieces. If you can play halfback, you can play safety, you can play corner, you can move to the other side of the field if you're on the boundary or on the field or all that, technical mumbo jumbo, right? If they really wanted to make a move, I don't know if you would put a practice roster second year player, practice roster in his first year, and essentially a new pro in DeMario Houston at the boundary corner against a team that has a guy that just threw for over 400 yards and a receiver that just had 140. I think you put Taekwon Glass at boundary corner, and you maybe put the young guy on the field side where generally your number 2 corner goes. I don't think that would be a hard switch for Taekwon Glass or DeMario Houston or whomever. That's why I think it's still Winston Rose's job. Like, you have a bad game, you have 2 bad games, it's early in the year, you're aggressive. He was admittedly aggressive in week 1. I'm sure he would have admitted it again in week 2. That's how he plays. So is it the safety help? Is it, the way teams are now attacking Winston Rose differently and Winnipeg and Winston need to make adjustments? I think that's the most likely thing. But I don't see Winnipeg being trigger happy and saying, we got to make a change. We got to take out, a perennial all-star and a guy who was in the NFL a matter of months ago. Right. So that's my take on that.
Yeah,
And I think he's healthy enough. I think it's just taking it easy on the foot, right? He's played in 2 games after walking in a walking boot. So he's got a little bit of strain or pain or discomfort, whatever. I think he's fine. He's fine enough to play. And I don't sorry, I don't think, because some people have proposed this, Zach. I don't think the injury is affecting his play.
Yeah, lots of people have asked that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed we have Scott Billick on this chat here, Darren. Did you
Oh,
see
there
that?
Oh, he
Pretty
says, I am
impressive.
Scott Billick. The Bombers cannot be beat. I read Scott Billick a lot, pretty much everything. I don't know if that's his language. That might not be Scott Billick.
Could be
Tech
someone
Billick,
saying it's
except
Scott
you
Billick.
text me. Could be someone named Scott Billick. But he's
Yeah,
saying, I am Scott Billick. Yeah, fake Scott. He jumps in there. Well, hey, fake Scott, thanks for joining us in the live chat. Everybody out there, thanks for joining us live on YouTube and Facebook. Shout out to everybody who is like Brandon. Good to see you back. Scott Roger, Rifle Up, Luke Irwin, Matt Haynes, CJ is back again. Andre Waiters, everybody, Ashley and Nick and Andrea, all of our favorites, Tyler and Booch. Shout out everybody. Thanks for supporting us here on Bonfire Sports. Go down below right now. Like, get out of full screen. I know you're in full screen because you want to see the beauty that is Zach Schnitzer and Darren Bombing side by side on a Tuesday night. But get out of full screen, hit a like, give that thumbs up on YouTube, give that like if you're watching on Facebook. If you haven't yet, all of you out there, subscribe and ring the bell, and then you'll know when we're live. Or if you're listening to this on podcast, which, by the way, Zach, numbers have been skyrocketing in our audio listenership. We're getting like 100 downloads a day, and we're not even doing a new show every day. So what does that tell
Wow.
you? People are loving what we're putting together here, and we're loving putting it together for you. So thanks everybody for the support. Are you worried about the Blue Bombers offensive line? Are you worried about the run game? Do they need to give Johnny Augustine the ball more?
This is, and by the way, David Asplin's saying these hats are beautiful. Everyone's saying these hats are beautiful. Darren, I think you have to do a giveaway with a hat.
People have been asking if they're for sale and that sort of thing. I got
yeah.
like a handful made up kind of impromptu. They turned out nice. So maybe I'll have to get some together. And I know Walby has one. He wants another one now. Figures the way he
Of
is.
course.
But he's greedy. But and be sure to check Chris Walby and myself out. We're going live right after Winnipeg Sports Talk on Thursday at 3:00. That's the day before the game. That's when we're going to do Game Day Winnipeg and our pregame show every week, of course. But yeah, maybe we'll get some gear made up. I'm really just trying to get the business going here, and we'll.
I hear you. You got a lot going on, brother.
We'll get the gear soon. I promise everybody. But Johnny
So
Augustine need the ball more.
So this is fascinating. This is the big question. I had a buddy text me, Sean, saying they need to give Augustine the ball. They need, and I've heard this all over the forums. I've seen it everywhere. They need to give Augustine the ball. I don't know yet. I think it's kind of the eye test thing. I don't know that their stats are all that different at this point. I know Augustine had a bigger average last game.
Both games
struggled in game 1. I think we're sort of, it's kind of like we don't know if Augustine can run the ball that well. Like in the second game, he ran the ball a little bit better than Oliveira. But as they talked about on your interview with them, which you guys should all listen to, by the way, Augustine and Oliver, I just wonder if they complement each other. But then I
wonder if they do.
I wonder if they complement each other and each makes the other so successful because it's a thunder and lightning, which, by the way, they self-referenced in your video.
They did.
However, because you know what I mean, Darren? Because like one is a power back, Oliveira. The other one is a shifty slasher burner. As Oliveira himself said, if Augustine makes one guy miss, he can be gone. Like he can be a home run hitter. So I don't know if to what extent they complement each other and then throws the defense off so they both can be successful. But then I think again, about 2019 when Augustine stepped in for Andrew Harris, and he put up amazing numbers. So there is a part of me that still wants to see Augustine get more touches. I will say that. I am fascinated to see what they do. Do I think that Augustine needs to be the starter right now? I'm not there yet. Where are you at?
I think they could be more balanced in the workload. From what I saw in the 12 on 12 reps in practice yesterday, a little bit more Johnny involved in those early reps. Sometimes, I would say often, that is indicative of what you see as far as workload in the game. But here's the thing: this is something I read in Ed Tate's piece on BlueBombers.com. Sure, Brady had 14 carries and Johnny had 7, so it's a 2-to-1 workload. Okay. Brady had 48 yards and Johnny had 43. So about the same production in twice the amount of work for Brady Oliveira. So he averaged 3.4 yards per carry, Johnny 6.1, right? 2-to-1. Maybe you need to balance it out a little bit. Maybe Johnny Augustine's average comes down with more work. We don't know. I don't even think the Blue Bombers know, because you don't know until you employ it in a game. Maybe more of a 50-50 balance. But what stood out to me in Ed Tate's piece was that 21 carries for 91 yards. It's not the greatest day at the ballpark, but it's pretty good. And again, we've only seen this rushing duo in a real game against the Ottawa Red Blacks. They've got a different opponent this week, and one that has Micah Johnson at defensive tackle. They don't have Jagira Davis anymore, but they do have some very, very good players back there. Simone Lawrence and our old pal here in Winnipeg, Javan Santos Knox, manning the linebacking core. They're going to be involved in the run defense big time. Winnipeg has it in tough. We need to see Jeff Gray be more disciplined, not take those holding penalties. Of course, he hasn't been a full-time starter before, so I expect him to be better every game. And then, of course, Chris Kolinkowski at center. So with those changes and those things being different from the dominant offensive line the Blue Bombers have had over the last couple of years, more for Jamarcus Hardrick, more for Pat Neufeld, more for Stanley Bryant to pick up the slack that's maybe left there with some changes.
So you're wondering if Augustine gets less touches, does he potentially have a higher average?
Does Augustine have the potential to have a higher average?
Yeah,
Well, he
I
does
thought I
have.
heard you say no. He does, but you're saying
If you get look, he had 7 carries last week, is what I'm saying.
right.
Okay, it's a lot easier to have a good average with just 7 carries, and then in week 1 he had 3 carries, so he's had 10 carries on the year. Right? It's not a lot. Let's see a little bit more. Whether they decide to do that or not, I don't know, but let's see a little bit more of Johnny Augustine is what I'm saying.
Let me
I think
ask you.
fans want to see it too.
Let me ask you this. I'm gonna play a theoretical, because a lot of people are wanting Augustine to get the lion's share of the carries. I'm hearing that everywhere, and there's a reason for that. We have smart fans. We see the production.
Ryan's mentioning what you and I talked about earlier, right? 2 games, hard to judge.
Let's assume that Augustine should get them. Then if we give the Bombers the benefit of the doubt, why does Oliveira still keep getting the carries?
Because he's number 1 running back. That's
but why? So what is your understanding of, or anybody's understanding of, if we're all seeing something on the field and the numbers are bearing it out, why is Oliveira the starter?
You say the numbers are bearing it out. The numbers are telling the story, right? In 2 games against the same team. If nobody knows what Brady Oliveira and Johnny Augustine have as individual runners better than the Blue Bombers. Yeah. Nobody knows. They know better than the opponent. They know better than 2 games against one team in the first 2 weeks of a 18-game season. It's clear as day. They will say it is a backfield by committee, and it is. But Brady's number 1 right now. Will that be forever? No, I don't think so. It could be, but I think they're going to spell one another. That doesn't mean, spelling somebody is, to me anyway, like, I don't know, you could look up the textbook definition, but spelling to me is jumping in and giving them some relief and then letting them come back in, right? Like the opposite of baseball where you replace him and he's done for the night at pitcher, right? I think that's what they will do. I think Mike O'Shea and Buck Pierce like the hot hand sort of mentality in that once they get a guy going, you keep him going. And I think
Right.
that's why Johnny Augustine maybe hasn't had more opportunity, not because Brady has been going well, but because they're trying to get him going well. It's early
Right.
in the year. They believe in him. They think he can be the guy. It doesn't preclude Johnny from touches or involvement in the offense, but I think it's Brady's job to do the heavy lifting and for Johnny to spell him and be that change of pace. If you want a change of pace, Zach, you have to set a pace. Well, the pace is Brady Oliveira. Johnny can change it from time to time, spelling him. That's my take.
I hear you. And you would imagine we need to trust the coaches with what they've put together the past 2 years, right? They must know what they're doing. I can just imagine some people, and I have had this fleeting thought: are they giving Brady Oliveira the job because he's the hometown boy?
Mm-hmm.
And I see Brandon on the chat saying the same thing. It's just a fleeting thought, and really smart people can make decisions that aren't the greatest based on some things, even if they don't know it.
Right.
It's just a question, a niggling question I have in the back of my head.
A what question?
Niggling question, like it's kind of like that worm in the back of your. Never heard that word?
No, I haven't.
It could also be a nagging question.
Sure. I like that niggling, like wiggling
Yeah,
with an N.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, this is an interesting comment from the Unforgiven, and I think he or she reflects the comments of many Blue Bomber fans out there. Last year, Augustine played way more than 2 games and had the same high average yards per carry that he has this season. He averaged 7 yards per carry last year. Brady had less than 4. My answer to that is true, but like I said, Brady's been getting more work than Johnny. It's, fresh legs, it's change of pace. Like there's a reason he has that high average. Is it getting to a point where maybe you need to give Johnny Augustine more work? Yes, that's what I'm saying. But it's still Brady's number 1 job. So maybe not 2-1, maybe a little bit more of a shared backfield. Um,
yeah.
but like it's what I think would work, what I Darren Bombing thinks would work, or what I would do. But I'm also balancing what the Blue Bombers are doing and want to do, right? So that's
Eh,
why my argument kind of like plays both sides because like, do we need more Johnny? Yes. Does he deserve it? I think so. Does Winnipeg think they want more Johnny Augustine? We'll see.
yeah.
I think it's getting to a point where they probably should.
Well, and I think if they keep winning and they keep playing both of them, Darren, then there's no reason
Mhm.
not to play both of them. As much as fans want to see more Johnny Augustine. And I guess the other thing I think about, and this is one of my favorite Mike O'Shea-isms, and he gets asked this on the coaches show, and he gets asked this in the scrum. You know, what are you going to do next week? Someone's got the hot hand. Are you going to keep throwing the ball? And Mike O'Shea always says, and I'm paraphrasing, it's we are going to do whatever we need to do to win the next game based on our opponent. He says it better than I do. But I think what he means by that is if he's playing Hamilton and on film study, Darren, they see that Hamilton is not great at loading the box, or they don't cover the gaps, the A and B gaps, then you might see more Brady Oliveira. If
Mhm.
he sees a team where you can block up the edges and get Johnny Augustine slashing to the outside for 50 yards, then that's what they're going to do. And that's what I love about the Bombers is that they're going to tailor what they do, and Buck Pierce will tailor what they do
Yeah.
to beat the opponent that week.
Yeah. Get to 1-0 every week, right?
Exactly. And you can't say it doesn't work. So the question I have is, where are the like we can get into this in our preview, but I do want to say one more thing as we talk about just the Bombers right now before we get into a preview, Darren, is
Mhm.
I think we have, and I'm not saying you wouldn't have mentioned it, but I think I just can't wait to mention it, is Theodric Hansen is coming home, buddy.
Yes.
I think that is
T3, Teadric
awesome.
Hansen. Yeah.
T3.
Yeah.
I
Like
like
not a
T3.
Tylenol with codeine, but like the Terminator, built like a machine. Like,
Oh.
okay, this is something a lot of people don't know. It's Teadric Hansen, not Theadric, despite the TH. So everybody around the clubhouse calls him T, and he wears number 3. So that's why I call him T3. And he looks like it too. Like I love the comment Mike O'Shea had to Paul Friesen, and Ryan Friesen, Paul's son, who's commenting in this today. I don't believe Paul Friesen of the Winnipeg Sun has a son. So I guess there's 2 Paul Friesens here in southern Manitoba. But anyway, I love what Mike O'Shea said to Paul Friesen yesterday, and it was like, how long will it take him to get into game shape, and
Yeah.
how is his fitness and that, and then you see the guy, like it's unbelievable. Like he looks like he's chiseled out of marble, and that's how he shows up. And then he, like he shared with me on our Instagram. And by the way, or James West, Wild James West, HOF James West 58, just followed Bonfire Sports
Oh,
on IG. So you should too. Wild James West is there. Get in there. Bonfire.sports on IG.
that's awesome.
That is cool. What's up, James? If you're watching out there, you were one of my favorites growing up. No doubt about that. But the way Mike O'Shea answered the question about his fitness level and when he'll be ready to go was, well, he ain't going to look like me and you when he's our age. Like he is like he's got genetics that are off the charts.
Yeah.
And to hear Teadric Hansen mention on our Instagram, Zach, that he arrived from overseas at 1 a.m, went to bed, woke up at 4. So he slept for 3 hours, and then he was like jumping at it and champing at the bit to get in the clubhouse and then get things going. Like he's been waiting to get back to playing football. And I don't think you and I will spend today talking about the global salary cap and all of that.
Nah.
I do have this scoop though. Teadric Hansen will make the league minimum or the global minimum, which is in the $53,000 range, I think. But here's the scoop I got for everyone out there. Teadric Hansen signed a 2-year contract with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Next year, he will make $110,000 more, much more than double his current salary. So I
Wow.
think that's deserved. I love to hear that. And I've got that on good authority. So I'm comfortable reporting that. That's a nice number for a player that is a deadly man on special teams,
Yeah.
versatile to play inside and outside on the defensive line, could probably even drop back to weak side or middle linebacker in a pinch. You're right, Brandon, saying he deserves it. No doubt, especially after making the global minimum these last couple of years. But good to see T3 back.
When you said T3, I thought he hits people so hard they need a T3.
Oh, I like that too. Nice.
I
They
don't
might
know.
they might need more than a T3. They might need a Percocet or something.
Because no one in Bomberland will ever forget that hit
Oh,
he put on Mike Daly and Frankie Williams in the 2019 Grey Cup.
yes.
Oh my God. I love Teadric Hansen. I'm thrilled he's back. I love too what he was doing to help refugees in Ukraine. I mean, he's a good
Oh, and you
dude.
could see his emotion speaking about it
Yeah.
yesterday. Like
Is that
he is
right?
a Oh man, he is a genuine dude that cares, right? He's spending all that time, not even in his home country, but in Poland, where he
Yeah.
works and plays football for the Wrocław Panthers, I believe it is.
Yeah, it is.
And he's at the border and he's trying to find them housing and
Yeah.
feeding them. Like, what a dude, man! Good on him. And the reason one of these, like Scott Rogers says, good people rewarded. No doubt, Teodric Hansen is a good guy getting his due in year 2 of his new contract with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. So that'll be for 2023. Um, I think that's a nice piece for the defense. I think
Yeah.
fans are a little bit more concerned, Zach, about the defensive backfield. And we touched on Demery Houston and Winston Rose. Nick Taylor had an interception in week 1. I think he's been very good. But let's talk about Dietrich Nichols. I gave him my
You
Wallabies
can't
Warrior.
resist.
Of course I can't resist. I'm beyond impressed with Dietrich Nichols. That guy can ball. The
Yeah.
play he made in the end zone this past week, watching the eyes of the receiver and then punching his hand in to knock the ball away at the perfect time. He is so good. He plays so clean, just beyond impressed. He's an absolute star in the Blue Bombers defensive backfield. He deserves to be mentioned along those best cover men in the Canadian Football League. Man, he's good and fun to watch.
Well, and I am actually tweeting our friend Nick Kowalski right now
Okay.
because I want to know if Nick thinks Dietrich Nichols is the best DB, because we know how Nick Kowalski loves his DBs and charting
Yep.
DBs. I'd be curious to hear. Not that I don't believe you, because I think you're right, and I've heard it from around the league. I'm curious to see what Nick thinks, because he tracks these stats like you
Yep.
wouldn't believe. Yeah, the guy is a tarp. I think I said, like, the touch he has, the speed, the body control, the wherewithal. Yeah, he is fun to watch. He is
He is.
fun to watch. But if you don't mind, let me pull it back to Teodric Hansen here,
Sure. Yeah.
because it's not like it's a ratio thing. He's a global and they need to have 2 globals. Fair enough. But the fact that they bring him in for 2 years, and you can tell based on the article that they'd been working on this contract for a while. What does Teodric Hansen bring that is so valuable? Off the top of my head, it's that rotation on the D line, Darren, that Richie Hall just absolutely loves, where you have fresh guys. And you had Teodric Hansen from year 1 to year 2. Year 1, I think he had 1 sack. Year 2, 2021, he had 3 sacks. He had a few tackles in there. He's a beast on special teams. I just think I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I think he just gives your defense another dimension.
Well, we talked about change of pace when it comes to the running game, right? Like
Yeah.
on offense. Change of pace on defense is just as valuable and just as important when you have arguably the best duo of defensive ends in the league, and probably maybe even the 2 best defensive ends in the league, Jaguar Davis, AC Leonard. There's some dudes out there. But when you have that duo as your starting pair, you can take one out and give them a rest and bring in someone like Teodric Hansen that has a very different physical makeup and a different skill set and a different way of attacking. If you're a tackle or a guard and you have to deal with Willie Jefferson all game, and then Teodric Hansen comes in and punches you in the mouth, like, look out. That's tough. He's just a good, solid football player. And you hear Mike O'Shea talk about him. He is an outstanding teammate and person. I think that also adds to it, right? Like, diversity is strength, right? We all know this. It's literally Darwinism.
Yeah, it
If
is.
you have someone like if you have someone like Teodric Hansen that is a different personality and a different voice and a different accent and
Yeah.
a different physical makeup and a different, he's got a unique sense of humor, I'm told. I think that
Yeah.
adds to it all,
Yeah.
right? You don't just have a bunch of American dudes, a bunch of Canadian dudes, U Sports guys, NCAA guys, guys that were in the NFL, CFL vets, whatever. Now you got a global who's the best global in the league. Like, yo, T, let's go. Like, just having that personality. The football
Yeah.
teams I played on, like, that was the most fun I had, was having those
Yeah.
different personalities around you and you wanting to play for the quiet guy and for the rambunctious guy and for the loudmouth guy and for the jerk and for your best friend and the rest. Like,
Yeah.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's why I fell in love with the game of football, because all week long you battle your opponent, which is the guy on the other side of the football. If I play receiver, I'm battling against the DBs and the linebackers all week long in practice. And then on Saturday, when you play, they're your boy, they're your brother, they're your teammate. You go to
Yeah.
battle with them, and then you go have a burger and a beer afterwards. And there's no better feeling. And then
100%.
Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, when you're back on the practice field, you hate them again. And you razz them in the locker room and you give them grief. That's the best part about it. I don't know if things are the same as they were 20 plus years ago when I played, but I think it's good having a different personality and player, a very good player, albeit in Teodric Hansen.
Those are great points, Darren, and we know how important that locker room culture is to the Bombers. So I don't think that goes unnoticed. I think we got to hit Shy Ross because everybody's
Yep.
asking. And my buddy Kevin just texted me, "Are they going to get Shy Ross? He's a hometown boy. He's an athletic freak." First of all, I know we got to get to our hotline stuff. We got to get to our game preview, but is Shy Ross a guy that intrigues you? And are you surprised he gets cut?
I'm never surprised by anything in pro football. I mean, Chris Jones is trying to put his stamp on this franchise. Shy Ross was there last year and the year before, right? He's
Yeah.
a Canadian. He's a receiver. I don't know how Chris Jones wants to work his offense with the ratio.
Yeah.
Ultimately, he's decided to move on from Shy Ross. For those out there that aren't familiar with Shy Ross, he is I think he's from just outside of Winnipeg. Forgive me, but a Winnipegger in the end. University of Manitoba product, a real speedster. Like, that's what made him jump off the page through the combine process prior to the draft. And you said it, freakishly athletic. If you remember the viral videos, they were all over TSN and Bar Down and Barstool, and all these American outlets picked it up as well. He did the backflip. I think it was in front of Dakota Collegiate, or on the field behind Dakota Collegiate, did the backflip and dunked the Oreo cookie in the milk, like inverted in the air, which is crazy.
Yeah, it was
So
insane.
that was a couple years ago, right? He's just working out through the pandemic and the rest.
Yeah.
Then what does he do this winter? He takes a barbell, like a two-hand barbell, big Olympic barbell. I don't know how much weight was on there, but it didn't look like a little bit, Zach. And he does a backflip with the barbell. Like, maybe it's a magic trick, maybe it's a quirk of physics. But for him to even try that and figure out how to do it and then do it, he has athletic ability off the charts. Is Winnipeg interested in him? I don't know. Maybe, you got to look at Nick Dembski. You got to look at Drew Wolodarski. And then you got to look at somebody who I think has a ton of upside and waiting for his opportunity in Brendan O'Leary Orange, who you talk about pedigree and physical talent. His dad played 4 years in the Canadian Football League. Is an excellent running back for the Toronto Argonauts. His son, Brandon, he's big, he's strong. He played in the NCAA. He's got good hands. He made a catch in practice last season that I still remember, and how the whole field lit up. They got 3 good players there. Do they need to add another one? I mean, I don't think the door's closed on it, but I don't think they're also rushing out to get him either.
No, and I know I don't think he plays special teams. So except for he does return on kick and punts. So and I think he's a pretty good kick and punt returner, but he hasn't been used much in terms of the offense. I think he's been thrown to twice this year and 0 yards. And then they released Kelvin McKnight. So maybe there's a spot, but maybe they released Kelvin McKnight to put Teodric Hansen on the roster. I'm not sure.
Right. Well, and you got to remember too that you have Joe Mancuso. I understand that Dakota Prukop
Right.
is on the 6th game, but I'm watching Joe Mancuso work after practice with a center, taking shotgun snaps, taking under center snaps, you know, throwing the football, but also working on, running it and doing some different things in the short yardage game. It was Drew Brown in week 2, Zach, running that short yardage package, that wedge package, that goal line package, if you will. Will it be Drew Brown in week 3 on Friday? Will it be Joe Mancuso? I think they're probably going to go to Mancuso at some
I
point.
hope
Will it be
so.
this week? It could very well be this week. Yeah.
Now, Darren, you're jumping the gun because you're a very organized individual, which I appreciate because
Are you
I am
sure?
not organized. Now, you're jumping into a preview here, and I saw Bonfire Hotline on there. Am I to understand? Are you just teasing everyone, or are you just
Well,
wanting to promote the
yeah.
hotline, or you want to throw one down on the hotline?
Well, I need you to take your left hand and go like this.
Left hand go like this. Yeah.
Here
Hey,
it
there you
is.
go.
Bonfire Hotline, 204-816-TIPS, 816-8477. I'll pull it up here and we'll see. Who was it? David shared a Drew Willie story, essentially delivering a pizza to his house and giving him, he tipped him well, and told him, you guys are going to kill Sask. And it's like, yeah, you go, buddy, enjoy your pizza. That's kind of a cool story. Some people were essentially a lot of people asking the questions that we've touched on already, right? But I want to see some hot takes out there. 816-TIPS. It's just like texting your mama. That's what we put on the caption. So standard message rates apply. But if you got a regular texting plan, it's not going to cost you any more. Text the hotline and give us your hot take. I want something hot enough to survive the bonfire. We'll put it out there. Don't forget to
Ooh.
leave your name. And I want to see what people got out there.
Well, when you operationalize that, like what's an example of like a steaming hot take?
Oh, well, you're asking a reporter to be an editorial now. I don't know. A steaming hot take could be like, you look at the games this week. Okay. So week 3 in the CFL, the Alouettes are huge underdogs to the Saskatchewan Roughriders. You could say, oh no, sorry. No, that's my mistake. Edmonton is a 9-point dog to the Calgary Stampeders. You could say week 1 was an anomaly, and week 2 they got lucky. Week 3, Calgary loses at home to Edmonton because
Mm,
this. Like James Wilder Jr. is going to run for 150 yards and Edmonton is going to beat him. Like, don't just give me a hot take because you think it's a hot take. Like, give me one that you believe in and tell me why you believe in it.
all
That's
right.
what'll get you on. That's what'll get you on Bonfire.
Yeah, and we still got to get those voicemails on because I know Donnie Crook saying sign guy probably has 100 on there now. I want to hear
Well,
them.
he's chirping you right now. Steaming hot
I
take.
know.
Get your Grey Cup ticket. Oh, did I lose it? Oh, I
I
did. I
know.
double clicked here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
Andrea. Yeah, go
let me
ahead.
just say for sign guy, keep listening or keep reading his stuff on CFL News Hub. It's from a fan perspective. He's a fan like me, but he's very smart. He's a master heckler and he's a great writer, and his stuff just keeps getting better and better. So he writes an article after every game. He previews the game. He's got about 3 articles a week, I think. Sign guy, tell us if that's true or not. I think it's 3 weeks. So awesome
So
stuff.
yeah, absolutely. The more voices, the better, as they say. I love this one. Huge tongue in cheek. Brandon saying, "Fire Richie Hall." Remember those days? Holy cow! That was a long, long time ago. Barflies, welcome back to the live chat. Barflies, one of
Yeah,
our
where were you, barflies? What's your
super
excuse,
texter.
barflies?
Uh, so Barflies was asking about our scheduling. I think in I might have mentioned this on a previous show, but Bonfire midweek, Tuesdays, 7:30 Central Time, all season long. Game day Winnipeg with myself and Chris Walby. The day before the game at about 3:00. We're going to really try hard to stay on that schedule. Walby is tough to pin down. Ask anybody that played against him in his near 2 decades in the Canadian Football League in his Hall of Fame career. And then our post-game show shortly after every Blue Bombers game will be on Closer to the Final Gun on the road. And then about, what are we saying, an hour and a bit after the game, when they're playing at home. So like this week. So an hour after the game, check out Bonfire Sports for game day after dark. It does get steamy. One person asking who draws in for, oh, sorry, Barflies. That's why I got to you in the first place. Who draws in for Michael Couture. So if Couture can't go, looks like an upper body injury, or I think it is listed as an arm injury, it will be Chris Kolankowski. He was with the Blue Bombers last year. I'm told by a very, very embedded source that Chris Kolankowski has purchased a residence here in Winnipeg. So he's comfortable in his job as being that Blue Bombers' sixth offensive lineman. That's always a good thing when you are a practice roster guy or bouncing around a little bit. You're not sure you're on the bubble. You're a Canadian in the CFL, and then you're comfortable enough buying a home. Congratulations. I think that's a great thing for Chris Kolankowski. He did a good job last week, Zach, by all accounts. So I think Winnipeg will be okay without their CFLPA 2021 All-Star Michael Couture at center. Oh, by the way, Michael Couture, your barber, is asking where you're at. Maybe you're getting haircuts at the clubhouse, but he's asking me. He's asking me, where are you, man?
Now,
I
gotta
go ahead, Zach.
I gotta ask two things. David Asplund, our good friend David Asplund, is saying I should be on the cheer team, and I Rifles take the PFC.
Oh yeah, Prairie Football Conference, rifle up, baby.
Okay, love it. He's saying I should be on the cheer team, and actually, in my day, I was a folk dancer, and part of my folk dancing prowess was throwing smaller people in the air, mostly women. So hey, maybe I could, David Asplund. Thank you. Everybody's asking about your Drew Willie story that David Asplund.
The one that David texted in, I mentioned about, pardon me.
Is that the pizza one?
Yes.
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
So someone just did. If
Now,
you didn't hear that, it was the pizza story. We did share it. Okay.
Now, my Drew Willie story that I teased on game day after dark, and shout out Don. I'll pull that up one more time. We love doing the post game show. It's getting huge response. People are loving it. So game day after dark. If you don't want to miss any of our content, any of our live content, you subscribe on YouTube and then you ring the bell. You hit that little bell button and you'll get an alert 3 times a week. That's it. But that's when we're live on the air. So you don't have to, do anything else, but just set up your alerts for YouTube on your phone and you can know when we're live. All my story about Drew Willie was when he came to Winnipeg. Like, I was told that year, the Blue Bombers targeted Zach Collaros, and he went from the Toronto Argonauts as a backup to becoming the Ticats starter. Went on to near MOP, like should have won maybe that MOP. I think it was 2014. Then they tried to sign Henry Burris. Well, he went to Ottawa and went on to a Grey Cup and capping his illustrious career. Then they went to Drew Willie, who was the backup to Darian Durant in Saskatchewan. And the scouting report on Drew Willie was good arm, smart, processes quickly. But I was told one of his greatest strengths was you could be a 350-pound defensive tackle, and staring down the ear hole of Drew Willie's helmet, he would be laser focused downfield. And that is a very, very difficult thing for quarterbacks to do. Very difficult. You feel that pressure. You feel that pocket collapsing around you to stay on your target, to stay processing information. That's what I was told was one of the true strengths of Drew Willie. And we saw it in the early going. But then we saw him get beat up and hit and injured and hurt and, behind an offensive line that had a lot of holes in it, right?
Yeah.
Through those years. So maybe he lost one of his greatest strengths. And I don't put any blame on Drew Willie for that. It has to be tough when you're playing in front of that early 2010s Blue Bombers offensive line. Like, 12, 13, 14, 15, even into 2015 they got Stanley Bryant, right? And things started to turn around a little bit. But those were some tough years. That's all I had. It was nothing crazy about Drew Willie, right?
No, that's an interesting anecdote, though. Scouting
Yeah,
report.
yeah.
I said it last time too. And I know we want to get to our game preview, but my heart hurts for Drew Willie. I remember when he first started, I thought he had talent. I thought he had accuracy, decision making. Maybe the knock on him is he was a bit slow getting the ball out, but that might have just been because he got gun shy and he didn't get a fair shake. And that's tough. That's the tough business of football.
Yeah. No,
So
it is.
yeah, yeah,
So C Walker and Barfly is asking about Liam Dobson, the Blue Bombers 2021 top pick. We talked about this a little bit on Game Day After Dark, didn't we, Zach? Liam
yeah,
Dobson is obviously a very well respected and touted prospect. And I
yeah,
call him a prospect because he's never played pro football before. And like, yeah, he's Canadian, but he played for Maine and then he played for Texas State. So he has been playing American football at an elite level. Like what he played in high school or not, whatever, I don't know. But it's been a while since he's played a yard off the ball. Well, the D line a yard off the ball.
yeah,
It's been a while since he's played 12 man. It's been a while since he's played, with the different systems that are Canadian football. Will he be the extra O lineman if Couture is out this week? Probably. But it could very well be an American as
yeah.
well. It depends what they do with their designated imports and their ratio, and we don't need to get into all of that. But I just don't see them going to like I don't see them looking at Liam Dobson as an option to replace somebody who's healthy because I think it's too early for him. It's just my take.
Yeah. Yeah. I
See
agree.
that'll be my my buddy Jesse will be calling me this week and saying just my take. That's your word of episode 5 of
Where are
Bonfire
we
Victory.
without our buddies and our friends and siblings who give us the gears, buddy? I wouldn't be who I am without my brother giving me the gears. Oh my goodness! But be gentle with Darren, okay, Jesse? Be gentle. He's my
I don't
brother
I
now.
don't need
So
I don't need that from Jesse. You can be tough on me, buddy. That's okay.
I
That's
know.
okay with me.
I'm just
But yeah,
Darren can take it.
well, sorry, what? I think I only caught half
Darren,
of that.
you can take it. You can take
Oh, I
it.
can
You got
take
it.
it. Yeah. Okay. I thought you said something else. I'm not even going to touch that. Looking ahead to week 3, Riders in Montreal to face the Alouettes, Tiger Cats, Bombers, Friday night here in Winnipeg, 7:30 Central kickoff. Don't miss the pregame with yours truly and Chris Walby Thursday at 3:00. We're going to do a raid or a live handoff from Winnipeg Sports Talk to
That's
Game Day
awesome. I
Winnipeg
love that. I love that,
on
buddy. That's great.
Thursday at 3:00 on your favorite Bonfire channel. Edmonton in Calgary, 9-point dogs in the Battle of Alberta. And then Argos looking for win number 2 in their second game of the season. Do you buy the BC Lions? They absolutely crushed the Edmonton Elks in week 1 and then a bye after all that momentum. That was a great home opener for them and their new ownership and the live shows beforehand and selling out the lower bowl, opening up the upper deck and then crushing Edmonton, putting up a
Yeah.
50 burger plus on them. I'm looking forward to this game against Toronto. I think it'll give them a little bit more competition than Edmonton, but how good do you think BC can be, Zach?
I have no idea. They have some great talent on defense. They have some horses that he can throw the ball to. James Butler has to play well in more than one game for me because last year I thought he got stuffed. Maybe that was scheme. I need to see more from Nathan Rourke. But I think people forget Nathan Rourke played for what, Ohio State? Like this is a guy who played for
No, Ohio, University of Ohio. Yeah, the Bobcats.
University of Ohio. I thought it was Ohio. Anyway, but he was a Div 1 player, was he not?
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah, and a good one.
Yeah, so he's highly touted Div 1 player. the guys played in big games. I hope so, especially unless they play us. I hope that they continue that. Toronto's going to give them a tougher test. That's a game. That's a game I'm interested in watching for sure. I think it would be a real good game. Two good teams. Toronto, I think, wanting to show more than they did the first game. Interesting to see if Andrew Harris plays, because that will be big. Like if Andrew Harris doesn't play, that's a big loss for that art. They put a lot into
Yeah.
Andrew Harris, because you saw
Yep.
DJ Foster move on. I think who's the backup? I forget his name. They have Ouellette there, and then
Yeah.
another guy.
Foster's gone. Foster's not with the
Foster's
team anymore.
gone. So
I'm not sure who they have. Let me quickly
it
look
starts
that
with
up.
an A. I forget how to pronounce it, but that's an interesting
Oh,
game.
they got Adebaboye.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. He had 3 carries for 10 yards. So once Harris went down, he had 18 carries for 87 yards, averaging
Yeah.
4.8, like vintage.
Yeah. Vintage.
And then he got hurt. I won't call that vintage, but he did miss a lot of time last year. He's 35. I think the error Toronto made, Zach, was going so heavy on Andrew Harris early. But I will caveat that mistake I am accusing the Toronto Argonauts of by saying an important caveat. Andrew Harris pulls weight, and I'm talking like with what he tells the coaching staff. He pulls weight. The guy's been there. He's done that. He's got a bunch of rings. He's got, records galore. Like he's in the Hall of Fame. He's the dude. So if Andrew Harris says, leave me in, what are you going to say? I'm good, coach. I'm good.
Yeah.
Early in that game, they spelled him with Adebaboye. Sorry, Adebaboye. I'll get that right. And you could see they cut to Andrew Harris. You could see him kind of like waving, like stay on, stay on. But that was just so he could catch his breath, because he just had 2 big runs.
Yeah.
He came back, he kept running, he kept going hard, and it took the toll on him. And it's apparently a hamstring injury. So we'll see. Is he good to go this week? Some people are asking in the live chat. We don't know. With that game being on Saturday, we won't know until Friday if he's on the roster, on the injured list, or where he will be.
Right.
But every week I want to have a game of the week, Zach, like looking ahead to the one game we're most excited to see what happens, the most excited to watch. Sask, Montreal, Edmonton, Calgary, Battle of Alberta, but 9-point spread there going into it. Not too excited about that. I'm curious of what Bo Levi has in week 3. Bombers, Ticats, whiteout game at IG Field, and the rest for sure, probably the game of the week, right? Grey Cup rematch.
Yeah.
But I'll give a 1B to Argos Lions on Saturday. I'm going to be up late on Saturday night, so might be late for church.
Well, the minister will forgive, because he or she or they will be watching that game as well. It should be interesting. That one, I think you're saying 1B because there's the most questions there, right? Like, how good are the Argos? How good are the Lions?
The intrigue.
The intrigue. I think you look at Rough Riders, Alouettes, it's probably the least interesting, except for the fact that the Rough Riders have had 13 sacks in 2 games. The next closest team has 4. And so
they had 10 in week 1. Right?
Yeah, they had a lot in week 1. And if they can continue that against the Alouettes, who I think are probably fragile, and they could go 0-3, especially with that owner spouting his mouth off. And
we have to remember the Rough Riders lost. Oh man, the name is escaping me, but he broke his leg last week. Oh boy, people are going to help me out here in the live chat. But the Saskatchewan, like their most veteran offensive lineman, went down to injury, and it was a tough one. I don't know why the name is escaping me right now.
Oh
yeah, so they've got some chat. Dan Clark, thank you, waiters, appreciate you a lot, brother.
Oh really? I missed that.
Yeah, he it looked like a broken leg. Can't confirm that obviously, but yeah, Tyler's right. Former offensive lineman himself. Dan Clark injury will be a major factor. Like Morrow is a really good running back, and having someone who's dual threat like Cody Fajardo, that offense is going to be okay. But you lose someone like that would be like the Bombers losing a Stanley Bryant or losing a Patrick Neufeld. It's a
Yeah,
big
that's
hit.
rough. That's rough.
Yeah, and
Yep.
as CJ's pointing out, Clark at center, right? So you lose
Yeah.
your center, it can be tough. I don't know what their depth is like. I know in years past, Zach, from people I talked to, the knock on the Rough Riders was depth on the offensive line. Like when Brendan Labatt didn't want to play during the pandemic, and he still doesn't want to play, hasn't officially retired, but doesn't want to play football. Everybody's like, man, they're thin. They're thin on the offensive line. So now you lose Dan Clark. That'll be a pretty interesting game too, with that loud ownership in Montreal and it being a home game too, right?
I love those Thursday night games, man. Like, you don't have to wait
Yeah.
all the way to the weekend. You only get through,
Yeah.
you only got to get through 4 days of the week, and then you got a football game to look forward to. It's in the East, so it starts a little bit earlier. You don't have to stay up too
Yep.
late. So that'll be fun. Let's just have a couple thoughts, Darren, on the game upcoming, because I know you and Walby will hit it harder, and then we'll just give a brief update on our fantasy and pick'em leagues, and
Right.
maybe put a bow on this one, because Father Schnitzer's got to wake up, and I don't know.
Oh man, we've been going for 140 already, eh? How about that? I
That's
didn't realize that.
when you love
Do
each
you do
other
you,
like we do, Darren. You just go, and we love the people in the chat.
right?
Just a loving.
Uh, I think Winnipeg will win on Friday. I think Hamilton is going to put up a hellacious
Yeah,
fight.
I agree.
But Dane Evans leads the CFL in touchdowns with 4. It's week 2.
Yep.
I bumped into Jason Vega, actually, former Blue Bomber and still at Winnipeg Dodge. Bumped into
Oh
him at
yeah.
Costco the other day, and we had a good chat. We're going to get him on the channel very soon.
Nice. Love that guy.
Yeah, great guy, and it was a heck of a player too. And then time in the NFL, I think
Sure
Dallas
was.
and the Patriots.
Yeah.
But
Patriots.
talking about Hamilton, and I mentioned Dane Evans with 4 touchdowns. I'm like, it's week 2, and he's like, you're right. We don't know anything about these teams yet. So it's a tough one to pick. If you like putting a sprinkle on a game here or there, you're looking at the lines on sportsinteraction.com. I think you're wary of either of these teams potentially winning handily. So we'll see how it shakes out. I will give Winnipeg a win because of the home field advantage.
And the white jerseys, and they always
Yes.
do well with those white jerseys against Hamilton. I love
right.
it. I know not everybody's into the whiteout because I think it's a Jets thing. Whatever, man. I think it's going to
Do
be
you like
fun.
hearing the True North shout out during the anthems at IG Field?
I don't mind it as long as it's quieter than
Well, it's quieter
free.
because most people don't do it, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't want it to be a thing. I like
So
when we
all or
do.
none, you're going none.
It doesn't bother me that it's there, but I don't want it to be any louder. It's a Bomber game.
I
I
know it
want
does
it to
bother.
be.
It bothers a lot of people.
Does it?
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting. I
because
like it when we
it's a
have the.
shout out. It's a shout out to the hockey ownership group for
Yeah,
essentially for bringing the Jets back, right?
yeah, yeah.
I get that.
I like the free blue when they say free. When they say blue, I think that's awesome.
I
I
hate that it sounds like a boo, though. That's
I
just me.
know.
That's just
I
me.
hear you. I
Don't
hear
chew
you.
me. Don't chew me up on the hotline, folks.
Uh-oh, sign guy doesn't know what to wear for the whiteout. Sign guy, get on Twitter and you did this before for the Grey Cup, buddy. Get some design input from our great fans. I'm sure they've got some ideas for you. Yeah, not to get too much into a preview because you and Walby will be doing it, but
Yeah, give me your elevator pitch on what you think in the game.
I'm fascinated to see how our defense plays against the Ticats because it seems like they're like Ottawa. They get the ball out pretty quickly. Now, I am hearing that Dane Evans maybe tweaked his knee a little bit, so that'll be interesting to watch. I'm not sure what to do there. The other thing, so if they get the ball out quick, we know Ottawa did that fairly well against the Bombers.
Mhm.
But if you load the box and it'd be interesting to see if Teodric Hansen is there. If they've got the physicality that if you just keep trying to dump the ball off again and again, they're just going to come downhill and eat you. The Bombers will. So and the Ticats don't run the ball. They really don't run the ball very much, and they haven't for a couple of years. So I think when you
Sean
don't
Thomas Erlington looks better this year than what I saw from him
he
last year.
does, he's
Yeah.
a talented player, but I don't know why they just don't seem to run the ball, so I think we'll be okay as long as we can stop some of that short stuff, but then we have
Well,
this. Go ahead.
I was just saying, get this. Like, they don't run traditional run style game. Like, Dane Evans
That's
led
true.
the team with 6 carries. Okay. Sean Thomas Erlington had 5. White, Addison, Schultz coming in at quarterback, obviously, 2 and 3 carries, respectively. Malik Irons had 1. They had 6 different ball carriers.
Yeah.
2 were quarterbacks. So they got 4 guys running the football. And like, I get that Braylon Addison, Poppy White, those guys are going to be used in different ways, but you're right. They don't run a traditional kind of like
No.
tailback, run the ball like Winnipeg does, right? So we'll see it. Like, I tried to get it out of Zach Collaros in my conversation with him yesterday, and you can catch some of that on our Instagram, bonfire.sports. I think it's on my Twitter as well. How different the opponent is. And, he just says, we got to, don't want to give up too much of the game plan. Got to come out fast. I asked him that for a reason. Hamilton runs a very different system than what we saw from Ottawa the last 2 games. So I think the challenge will be different in just how Hamilton plays offensive football. You can talk about Masoli versus Evans till the cows come home. The system is different. And I think, it's a different challenge for the Blue Bombers. It's, here we are,
Mm.
3rd game of the season, and they're meeting their second opponent. It's going to be a bit weird. Zach, let's get into our leaders in our fantasy and pick'em.
Yes.
So still leading the way, and by a pretty healthy margin, is Jordy Longbottom. He's got
Again.
1,978 points. Yeah, maybe I can pull it up here. So shout out to Jordy, sign guy, Bison alum 56. He's got the bio picture there, running out of the tunnel in his Bison Brown. Love to see that. Game Time Art, I believe, is a blogger for the Winnipeg Jets, or has been in the past. CJ there at 5th, tied with Snakebite, all doing quite well there. And then our fantasy football, I sure hope this pulls up. Oh, it does. Good. Okay. So Parker East still leading the way in the overall, but let's look at the weekly. And shout out to those that did a great job last week. How do I pull up the week 2 here?
Yeah, I
We're
was
gonna have
having
to.
trouble with that myself.
Well, I guess we just have to look at the overall. But we
Yeah.
had some big performers this week. I forget the name of the individual. I apologize out there, but big shout out. You took a ton of Rough Riders, and that led to a lot of points. I'm really starting to see, Zach, the Saskatchewan Roughriders running back, Jamal Morrow. He looks so good
Yeah.
right now and adds a great dynamic and that run threat to the Saskatchewan Roughriders offense. The defense, yeah, they struggled big time, especially in the 3rd and 4th quarter to the Stampeders, and losing that game. Or pardon me, um, they I'm getting them mixed up. Apologies. Saskatchewan had a tough time against Edmonton this past week, but that Jason Shivers defense is very good. Saskatchewan, I think, is going to give Winnipeg their biggest run for their money in
Yep.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah, you have those 3 2-0 teams, right? Calgary, Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, and it's who's going to come out of there. It's going to be fascinating. I will give myself a plug. Pick'em, I'm not so bad. I'm 14th out of how many here? 45. So that's the top third
You're in the
tier.
top
That's
third.
not
That's
bad.
good. Yeah.
The fantasy I don't do well on, but whatever. It's fun. That's all that matters. It's fun. Bombing, you got to get your picks in. You missed the first week, so you're
I know,
behind.
I set them, but then I
I don't know
didn't
what happened there.
confirm them or something like that. But I took all the home teams and did go 4-0. It's just not showing officially on the pick 'em. So I'll call that the head start I give all you guys.
Handicap. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll call it the handicap. I think that's fair. I'm roughly in picking straight up in the CFL. I'm about 68% all time. I would say over the last 6
That's pretty good.
years. Yeah, 5 or 6 years, I'm about 68%. So I don't know. Maybe that's why my buddies keep calling me, those ones that like to, are a little degenerate with the gambling. But uh, either way, everybody's having fun so far in a very exciting start to the 2022 season.
Yeah,
Zach, maybe we'll leave it there. Week 3 is going to be a ton of fun. Thanks to
totally.
everybody out there for joining us in the live chat on YouTube and Facebook. All of those links, including podcast links, bonfiresports.ca. Hit us up on Instagram, hit the live chat every show, and hit the hotline 816 tips 816-8477, and get down below, hit like, subscribe if you haven't already. Give us some comments too. Get the conversation going in there. Let's create a community here, all of us chilling out around the bonfire in the summer of 2022. It's the longest day of the year, Zach, and the shortest night. I hope you have a great one.
I hope you do too. And everyone on the chat, folks. And stay tuned for After Dark, because we may have a special guest who speaking of that True North thing, he may play for that side in the Winnipeg media scene. I am taking one of the illegal curve dudes to the game, and he may be
Don't give it
joining.
away.
He
Who's it
may
going to
be
be?
joining After Dark. I'm not going to give it away now, but we're going to do some I don't know what they call that, cross-pollinating with the hockey guys.
I love it. I love it.
I don't know if that was the right
Yeah.
term.
No, it kind of works. I think it works. But
Okay.
yeah, it's
Okay.
going to be fun. So game day after dark, just about an hour after the game on Friday. Pregame show, myself and Chris Walby. Thursday live, 3:00 immediately following Sports Talk Winnipeg. Okay, everybody, have a great night. Take care.
Night, everyone.